Welcome to Buy, Sell, Hold, the Sports Car Market Podcast. Market experts and car friends for over 30 years, Keith Martin and Mark Green have come together through their mutual love for collector cars. Keith and Mark will take you on a ride into the collector car market, talking with industry experts, helping you navigate your collector car journey so that you know when to make your own decisions to buy, sell, or hold.
Hello, I'm Mark Green from the Cars Yeah podcast.
And I'm Keith Martin from Sports Car Market Magazine.
Welcome to Buy, Sell, Hold, the essence of collecting. This is show number 6. So, Keith, how are you doing today?
It's a great day. My son just got out the door, and he's going to catch the school bus on time, I hope.
Yes. Yes. And my car's wife wouldn't start, or my car's wife, my wife's car. That's how discombobulated
exactly,
I am today.
I understand.
Yeah, the wife's car wouldn't start this morning. So, yeah, your 12-year-old and my not-so-12-year-old have different challenges today, but they all are doing fine. She's jumped in my car. Hope she takes care of it. Not doing burnouts down the street, but we'll see.
I can actually see the school bus coming up the street here.
All right. Bonus.
And he was there before it. So, okay, yes.
Go. We won't have you run off and take him to school this morning in the mighty Elf Volvo, which you've listeners have heard about before. Well, today we have the first woman on Buy, Sell, Hold, which is kind of special. And it's especially special for me because March is Women's History Month, and March 8th was International Women's Day. Love seeing more women in the automotive sector, which I think is pretty cool. I've had some amazing women on my Cars Yeah podcast. Just to name a few, Jennifer Mayer, who's Tech Force Foundation, America's Automotive Trust and LeMay Museum president and CEO. Had Jackie Frady from the National Automotive Museum, Dana Rappaport from Tech Force, Lynn St. James, of course, from RPM Foundation, all sorts of wonderful women. And, of course, I've had your daughter, Alex, on the show. So I thought we'd chat a little bit here to talk about women in the automotive industry, how we're seeing more and more, and how they add a whole new dimension to the automotive collecting sector.
I think that you're seeing a couple of things going on. First of all, there are more and more women who are on the software, IT, and technology side of this business, which is becoming an ever-increasing part of it. You know, in fact, cars are really just kind of mobile computer systems these days, even more than they are machines. So I think that you see that. I know with my daughter at Daimler Trucks North America, in the position that she was originally hired to fill in sales and marketing, she was the first woman to have a degree.
Really?
Who was in that position.
Wow.
Her bosses was very encouraging and helped her along. And so I mean, you're just seeing the automotive world, which has been quite chauvinist over the years, understand that women are really smart and bring a whole lot to the table.
Yeah. My regular listeners on Cars Yeah have heard this a million times. My wife is way smarter than me. She was an engineer. And one of the things that I've always said is if you're in a good relationship with somebody and you're going to make a large purchase decision, you always ask for their opinion. And one of the things that when I will think about buying a collector car, I'll ask Jill, and she'll always say these words, well, if you think that's smart, which is typically code for that's not a good idea. But sometimes I've taken that advice, sometimes I haven't. Usually to my detriment. But women do make a lot of buying decisions with cars. If you look at the market sector, over 50% of the car buying decisions are made by women these days.
Well, you know, what I've learned is that you cannot buy a car for someone else. When I was running the Ron Tonkin Ferrari store, I had a very good friend come in who wanted an Alpha Spider. And I said, well, you know, they're really not that reliable. And let me put you into a Honda CRX because that's a great car. You'll never have any problems with that car. She gets into the CRX. 2 weeks later, she's back and she said, I'm trading the car in. I want an Alpha. I don't know why you talked me out of it.
Yes. Yeah. Well, that was a good lesson learned for sure. And having you spent many times in a car dealership and kicking tires and talking to them about things. I was just in having my car serviced a few weeks ago. My longtime salesman at BMW Northwest, Ron Hansen, he's such a great guy. And I've asked him about that, about women and buying. He said, oh, yeah. He said, it's amazing how it's changed. And he said how much more educated about vehicles women are today because you can gain so much knowledge. So I think it's great. What is Alex doing these days at Mercedes-Benz?
Well, she's in marketing and new product development. They had her get her Class A commercial driver's license by towing a 40-foot trailer and backing it around a 90-degree turn into a bay.
Oh, wow.
And what I found out from her was that if you take the test, the Class A test, driving an automatic, then your license is not good for driving manuals. If you take it on a 6-speed non-synchro manual, then your license is good for automatic and manual. So she took the test. They have her and passed it. They have her going out to middle schools for career day, showing up. She's 5 foot tall and weighs 95 pounds, and she hops out of the cab of this semi to see all the young girls who are there. I also think, Mark, we talk about getting young people involved in cars, and I believe that the way you do that is by getting them involved when they're really young.
Yes.
And I'd say with my daughter, she learned to drive when she was 12 on a VW thing, and she has muscled around my old cars with non-synchro gearboxes. My Land Rover 88 had no non-synchro first. And I think all of that has helped her in her career because she understands cars and trucks, but she was introduced to them young. It wasn't like she was 24 and never driven a stick and then put in that position.
Very cool. Well, you did a good job in preparing her. Little did you know she'd be driving big trucks one day.
Know. Well, it's all on her. I gave her the VW thing, but she's the one that's taken her career and run with it.
No doubt. She's a very, very smart woman. I really loved having her on Cars. Yeah. Well, we'll be back in a minute to talk with Elana. Elana Scherr was who we're going to be talking with today. But first, a special offer from Keith's team at Sports Car Market. We'll be right back. Here's another buy, sell, hold special offer. Do you love knowing what the collector car market has done when it comes to values? Of course you do. The Sports Car Market Platinum Auction Database puts 31 years of auction results right at your fingertips on your mobile device or your computer, no matter where in the world you are. With nearly 300,000 records, that's right, 300,000, it has the information you need to make an informed decision on that oh-so-important classic or vintage vehicle purchase. You'll receive all this for a mere $5.50 a month. That's less than the cost of a sandwich. As a Buy, Sell, Hold podcast listener, use the code PLAT50, that's right, PLAT50, to get this special discount. Just go to sportscarmarket.com/platinum50 and the cart will automatically discount your order. Plus, Platinum subscribers also receive access to the full library of back issues of Keith Martin's Insider's Guides, a valuable resource for anyone in the market for collector vehicles. That's sportscarmarket.com/platinum50. Get your discount today.
So, Mark, who will we be talking with today?
Today, we have Elana Scherr on Buy, Sell, Hold. Elana Scherr didn't grow up in a car family, though, but she has made up for it with lost time. She started her wheeled career in motorcycle parts, fabrication, then she did a stint in automotive PR before moving to the editorial side. She was a staff editor at Hot Rod Magazine, an editor-in-chief at Roadkill Magazine, and currently reviews new cars for Edmunds and Car and Driver, while also covering classic and car culture for American Car Collector Magazine, Sports Car Market Magazine, you know what those are, Keith, and other enthusiast titles. Elana and her husband Tom have a large collection, more than a dozen, mostly carbureted vehicles, including an Opel GT, that's cool, several muscle cars, and a classic open-back ramp truck race hauler that originally belonged to pro stock legend Dick Landy. They cover their collection and keep it running on the Challengeher, get it? Challengeher YouTube channel. Along with car projects, Elana is also writing a very cool book with Don Prudhomme, that guy called The Snake, about his life and racing career. So, Elana, welcome to Buy, Sell, Hold. How are you doing today?
I'm great. Thank you guys so much for having me.
You're welcome.
Elana, we're so glad to have you on this show. You write so beautifully, and I'm told that at our seminar at Barrett-Jackson that you were a real standout down there. So thank you for everything you do for American Car Collector, Sports Car Market, and the car community at large, and welcome to the show.
I'm very happy to be here. I'm happy to work with you guys. You're always so nice to me, so, saves me a lot of money in counseling. Very affirmative.
So let's jump right into here to Buy, Sell, Hold. If you could describe the collector car market today in one word, what would that word be and why would you choose it?
Okay, I would go with transitional. I feel like right now we're really at a changeover in what people are starting to be interested in and starting to collect. I mean, I think that collector markets are always changing, so it's not like a risky word to say. But in this particular case, I think that what we're seeing is kind of a move from the classics that we have been seeing for decades, because I really think the muscle car collector era lasted a long time as kind of like the key time period, even in exotics. I mean, I'm more of an American car person, but I think that everybody was sort of thinking about the 60s and very, very early 70s as like the time that was going to be the collector market forever. And all of a sudden, we're seeing all of these cars from the 80s and 90s that people are really into.
And today we're going to talk about 3 vehicles in your life that have made a difference. One you have purchased, one you have sold, and one you would never let go of. Let's start with the buy. Talk about a vehicle that you bought that was really special to you. Let us know about the purchase process. Was it simple, complicated, and why did you want this car so badly?
Oh gosh, there's so many cars. I guess for the buy, I'm going to talk about my newest car, which is a 1981 Turbo Trans Am. It was almost a surprise to me to find myself wanting one. I mean, obviously, Smokey and the Bandit Trans Ams are always awesome. And I have a game I like to play at dinner with people I don't know super well and just be like, hey, what's the coolest car of the year that you were born? And so, for me, that would have been a Smokey and the Bandit Trans Am. And then when I started looking at them, I realized I really liked the turbo ones. They just had the super cool hood with the offset scoop and this early use of a turbocharger on a V8. It's so badly designed, and yet there's something really cool about it. So last summer, my husband Tom and we started looking, and I could not believe how expensive they were. I was not prepared for it. I thought that they would be, I was thinking of them as being like $10,000 cars, and I started looking for them and they're $30,000 cars. And I was just like, it's not that good of a car. I mean, I want one, but I don't want anyone else to want one. And then we finally found one that was, it was a few steps down in what I had initially wanted in terms of being sort of ready to run. But we were able to get it for $6,000. So
how did you find it? Where did you look?
So that was a Craigslist car. I mean, we were looking in a lot of places and, sending links back and forth to each other. I saw quite a few on Facebook Marketplace, which I thought was interesting. But I think that ended up being a Craigslist car. And it ended up being a car that a guy's friend had purchased while he was out here visiting. And then that guy went back to New Zealand and left the car in this guy's driveway. And this guy wasn't interested in 80s cars. He was like a classic car, like a much older classic car guy, 40s, hot rods kind of stuff. And so it was just sitting there leaking in his driveway, making the rest of his family irritated. So I think he ended up being very eager to get rid of it. And his friend was just out of the picture by that point, didn't care anymore. So it was kind of a lucky purchase for us. Let's say I bought it last summer and I still haven't driven it since we started working on it, if that gives you some idea of how much work it needed.
That thing has that Garrett TBO 305 turbocharger that was oil cooled, I believe.
Yes, yeah. It's got an oil line.
Yeah, interesting technology for early turbocharged V8s for sure.
Well, it's funny because most of the turbo cars I've seen, especially coming from Hot Rod, are these sort of big twin turbo setups, maybe LS engines, these beautiful turbos set up front, getting, intercooled, all this stuff. And then there's this one where it's like, oh, you put the turbo on top of the manifold in the middle of the engine bay. Okay.
Good
that
luck.
was a decision.
Yeah.
Well, here, let's talk about a memorable sale. Something you've owned and sold, and you kind of had to really think hard before you sold it. And do you regret selling it? What was the process, and why did you let it go?
Well, anybody who's ever been to my house would tell you we don't sell very much. But actually, the only car that I have owned and sold personally, I mean, Tom and I have sold stuff that we owned together before, but the only car that was mine, before I met Tom and got married and that I eventually sold, was a 1973 Plymouth Duster, which was my very first car. I didn't learn how to drive as a kid. My folks weren't into cars. And so when I was in college, I ended up having to buy a car so I could get a driver's license. And my neighbor who was into classic cars helped me find one. I'd wanted a Nova. And he's like, I don't like Chevys, but I like Dodges and Plymouths, and a Duster basically looks like a Nova. So that was sort of how I ended up with the Duster, which I love. Ended up changing I had to learn how to change the starter on it before I could even, legally drive it, because I lived in Hollywood, had to park it on the street, pull it up on the curb and crawl underneath it. But eventually it got to the point where I got a Challenger, and I was just like, I like the Challenger so much more, and I really don't need both a Challenger and a Duster. Like to me, they were doing the same thing. I think it's totally fine to have as many vehicles as you want if they do slightly different things. But I don't like to have kind of, some people like to have a ton of the same car, which is cool too. I mean, it looks good in photos, but for me, I like them to be very different. So ended up listing the Duster. I think we sold it on eBay. And I got a decent price for it. This was a while ago, so I think it maybe sold for $7,000. And I bought it for like $3,000. So it was a good deal for me. And I've had it for a while.
Yeah. Do you ever wish you'd never sold it?
No, I don't. I know that that's a common thing for people to miss their first car, and I have great memories of the Duster. But I sold it to a wonderful couple from Nova Scotia who came all the way down and then drove it home. So I remember we had to fix the heater because I had just blocked off the heater because I think that, something was leaking, and we had to fix it for them because they were driving it home. And I was like, it's going to be too cold for them without a heater. So, and they made it home, and, they had a heated garage, and I was just like, it's going to have a lovely life.
Yeah.
And
it went off to a good home. Did it have the famous Duster graphics on the back? I think they're in the back fender, weren't they? They had kind of the whirlwind. Am I thinking about the right car?
Yes, that is the right graphic. I don't think they had them in 73, and this car didn't have it. It was a triple white, so white vinyl top, white interior, bucket seats, and white exterior. It did have the cool fold down back seat. It was a very useful car. I recommend a Duster as a good starter muscle car. They're easy to work on.
Well, in the wonderful Malaise era, I should say, of collector cars too. So the 73, that's fantastic. Well, let's take a short break and talk to our sponsors. Keith's team has another special offer for you listeners, and we're going to be right back to talk about a memorable vehicle that you'd never let go. We'll be right back. Here is one of the country's finest automotive events that you should not miss, the Amelia Island Concours d'Elegance. Now in its 25th year, this multi-day iconic event takes place March 5th through the 8th at the Ritz-Carlton on the beautiful Florida barrier island of Amelia. You'll enjoy seminars, road tours, an RM Sotheby's auction preview, silent auction, a delicious banquet dinner, the Porsche driving experience, and Saturday's Cars and Coffee at the Concours with over 450 incredible cars and inspiring people. Then there's Sunday's main event, the spectacular Amelia Island Concours d'Elegance, where you'll get to see 300 significantly historic vehicles. Roger Penske is this year's honoree, and there will be many past honorees attending who are the leaders and shakers in the automotive world. The Amelia Island Concours is a 501c nonprofit foundation that raises money for North Florida and many national charities. Learn more at ameliaconcours.org. That's Amelia, CONCOURS.org, and we'll see you there. I've been subscribing to Sports Car Market Magazine for decades, and it shows up like clockwork in my mailbox every month. But what about when I'm on the road? Did you know that digital subscriptions to Sports Car Market are just $2.50 a month when you sign up with the promo code DIGITAL50? That's less than a cup of coffee. You get 50% off regular price just for listening here to Buy, Sell, Hold. Plus, digital subscribers receive instant access to a year's worth of back issues and the exclusive Insider's Guide, including the 2020 Insider's Guide to the beautiful Amelia Island Concours, and all the spring auctions as well. No more boredom while sitting at the airport or on your flight. To get your Sports Car Market digital subscription at this discount, go to sportscarmarket.com/digital50. Your order will automatically get you the 50% off. What a deal. Go and sign up today at sportscarmarket.com/digital50. All right, we are back. And Elana, I want you to talk about a car that you'll never let go. This is something that you're definitely going to keep. Share a great memory you have with that. How did you find the vehicle, or did it find you?
Okay, again, I know that this is like most people have like this. I would never, I would give my life for this car kind of thing. And I feel hugely affectionate about all of my cars. I mean, I really like them. I'm kind of a dork, I'll get home from a long drive and like give the car a little kiss on the steering wheel and be like, good job, bud. You were great. But I also feel like any car I have, if like the right offer and the right person came up, I would consider letting it go to a different home. I mean, I don't own anything that's so rare that there isn't a possibility of replacing it. That said, I have had a 1970 Challenger, probably 15 years now, maybe more. And I bought it from the original owner. His name is Harold Pope. Hi, Harold. It's a B7 blue car. It was originally a 318. It's on its third engine, maybe. I learned a whole lot about engine building from working on it with Tom. Been drag racing with it. It's been in all these different car shows. It's been in various different videos. I've lent it to people. It was on Top Gear America. I've just done really cool things with it. I've gone on great road trips with it. It's one of those cars where you drive it somewhere, like even just a basic errand, and you come out of the grocery store and you're walking in the parking lot and you see it, and your first thought is, wow, that's a really cool car.
And then it's my car.
Like, oh, that's my car, yes. And I feel really good about it. And I think that it would take a very special person and offer for me to send it off somewhere else.
To let it go. Yeah, I'm going to take you back in time a little bit, because a car you've had 15 years is a special car, I think, on anybody's ground. Keith, have you ever owned a car for 15 years?
I have. I've got one I've owned for over 30.
Well, there you go. There you go. Ooh. So the love of his life. Well, I wanted to take you back, Elana, and have you think about the first time you got in that car and gave it a drive. What was that experience like for you?
The very first time I ever drove it, it was incredibly disappointing because it was a 318. It had been sitting a long time. It was very smoky. It was very faded and rusty, crusty. And at the time, I had a 1972 Challenger with a huge 440 in it. I mean, like a built 440 in it that I'd been drag racing that ran like 12-second quarter miles, and which at the time was smoking fast. Now you can just buy a scat pack that'll run a 12-second quarter mile, but at the time it was a very, very fast street car, and it was like super rowdy. It was flat black, and it didn't have any door panels, and people would glare at me if I parked it in their neighborhood. And so then I got in this 70, which everyone was telling me was much cooler than the 72, but I was like, I have a flat hood and it's slow. It took actually kind of a long time for me to get to the point where I was like, oh no, this car is better and I'm going to sell the 72. And, now it's a totally different experience to drive it.
You had to build a relationship with that car.
Yes, definitely. It was like I wanted to like it, but I really didn't.
Yeah.
So, Elana, let's skip forward here to the perfect all-around collector car. What would be your choice? It could be a car that you already own. It's not the most exotic. It's not the most expensive, but it's the car for you that is the most fulfilling to do almost anything in. What car would that be?
Fantasy car.
A fantasy all-around collector car.
If you guys will allow me, I'm going to do 3 because I feel like there's like there's different kinds of fantasies, right? Like there's the fantasies that you're pretty sure you could fulfill. And then there's the ones that you might be able to do. And then there's the ones that probably aren't ever going to happen, but they sure would be great. And, and so in that same order from kind of attainable to probably not, I would go with Jensen Interceptor, a 5th Gen Viper, and a Lamborghini Miura.
I like those choices.
Yeah. Let's jump to the Miura, though, because that's the one I like out of your choices. Well, of course, I kind of like, I like the collector cars. But, in the spirit of this question, when you think about it, all around collector car, what would the Miura do for you? How would you use it?
Well, I'm pretty willing to drive things that most people don't consider to be particularly drivable. I think anything that was ever sold as a production car can be made usable. And I know a few people who have Miuras and who drive them. And I think that to have something like it's a car where nobody has to know anything about it to know that it is spectacular.
Yeah.
You're never, ever going to meet anyone who's like, that car doesn't look cool to me.
Yeah. If you do, you're in the wrong neighborhood.
I just don't think it's possible. I don't think anyone would ever look at a Miura and be like, that's ugly. Like, I've never had it happen. You could have other complaints about them. You could say they're not as fast as they should be, or they catch on fire, or they're, not good for towing a boat, whatever. But like, no one's ever going to say that it isn't just an absolute gorgeous unicorn of a car.
But it's a big jump from a Jensen.
Yeah.
Well, I am a very practical person.
Practical. Okay. Tell me how Jensen Interceptor is practical.
Well, seats 4, nice, reliable American engine, interesting European styling.
Yeah, okay.
Totally practical. Big trunk. Good to go.
Yeah. Well, okay. I get it.
Would you care if it was a 383 or a 440?
Well, I would always go 440 if possible, but yeah.
Of course.
I could probably do something with a 383 if I had to.
If you had to. Oh, gosh. Listen to this. Oh, it's fun. Very cool.
And then your other choice, was it a Viper?
Yeah.
Which Viper?
I like the 5th Gens, the last one. The earlier ones are great too, but like there are things about some of the earlier ones that are legitimate complaints. I don't like being hot in a car. I don't need the pipes of fire underneath me and that kind of thing. And the last generation, I just think they did such a good job. And I feel like the car suffered from kind of all of the wimpy journalists who complained about the earlier models and just assumed that the last one was the same. But I did a story back when I was at Roadkill where I had one for, I think it was a GTS. I had one for 4 months that I just used as a daily driver. I live in Los Angeles. It's a lot of traffic, long distances, hot weather, all that stuff. And it was no problem. Other than the fact that I got one large left calf muscle, it was just a really fabulous car. And I was extremely sorry to give it up.
Elana, we had it. Jim Pickering found us a Viper Coupe, an ACR car, and we bought it with 900 miles on it. I think we put about 10,000 miles on it. And I have to say, I loved that car. By then they had good air conditioning. I liked the lines of it, and it was so easy to live with and so brutally uncompromising. You could get yourself into trouble without you didn't have to think. You were just in trouble instantly when you got behind the wheel of the car.
Well, but if you didn't want to get into trouble, you just didn't use so much. You know what I mean? Like it wasn't like it spun out if you looked at it. So, and I liked that too. I liked the fact that if I was foolish, the car very quickly was like, girl, you being a fool. But
right, exactly.
if I was not foolish, then the car was like, you are acting in a respectable manner and I will respond in kind.
I have a quick story to tell you, Elana, with my daughter, because she's raised on 4-cylinder cars. And with the little Alpha, when you're passing on a 2-lane road, it's a science. You pull right up behind the car ahead of you. You make sure you're in the right gear. You're right at the beginning of the power band, and you're daring. Right. So then we went for a long trip in the Viper, and she said, Dad, this passing thing is so much easier in this car.
Power on tap.
It's ridiculous. The Opel GT is probably a little bit like your Alpha. Yes. And I have to remember what car I'm in because, if I'm swapping back and forth between, say, the Opel and the Challenger, I'm like going 5, maybe even 6 times the horsepower. And it makes a big difference in how you drive.
Very nice.
Let's talk about your business, Elana, your writing, your other careers. How has today's market affected your life?
Well, I'm a writer and I've been freelance for 2 years now. And the media landscape is changing so fast that by the time we're done with this phone call, there's going to be like one less magazine somewhere, and someone's going to be a new editor-in-chief of another magazine, and there's going to be like 3 new websites. So it's a weird thing to keep track of. I think, again, talking about transition phases, I don't know what the future of covering cars is going to look like exactly for me. I mean, whether it's going to be video or online or newsletters or, new magazines that nobody's introduced yet or big, beautiful books. But I think that the interest in cars and car culture is a thing that's still around. People still really like to talk about cars, and they might want to talk about them a little differently, or they might want to talk about different cars. But for me, I think that there's always somewhere where there's a story that needs to be told about the cars, or about who built them, or how they were designed, or how they're going to be designed in the future, or who keeps them running now that they're old.
Let me tell you, Elana, from the SCM perspective, we're doubling down on print. There have been studies shown that people don't transition from print to digital. It's 2 totally different reading experiences. And so, we are about 200 pages an issue. We're adding another couple special sections and editions we're going to talk about. But we believe that there's a market out there for print magazines that truly connect with their readers and give them a special experience. So you're on the right team here.
Well, I'm glad to hear it.
Yeah, most definitely. Elana, you've taken us on a great ride today. I really enjoyed talking with you. And it's fun having you be the first lady on the show. I think that's pretty cool. Would you offer our listeners maybe a little parting piece of wisdom or advice about buying, holding, and selling cars before we let you go?
Yeah, I'm not going to tell anybody what to do on a make money. I'm not going to tell anybody how to make money on cars, because in general I don't. But I can tell people that if you love cars and if the car makes you happy, then that's a good investment. Your own happiness is worth investing in. And to me, the people that I know who are in the car hobby who seem to have the most joy in their lives are people who pay some attention to the market so that they're not losing all of their money in their car, but also just buy cars that they can use and share them with the people around them. I think that that's the goal. Great advice.
What's the best way for people to learn more about what you're doing these days? I know you had the Challengeher YouTube channel. That's cool.
Yeah, Challengeher is my username on pretty much all of the various social media accounts. So Instagram and Twitter. I have a Facebook page that I share links to articles and videos on. If you have interest in knowing how I feel about new cars, check out Car Driver and Edmunds. I do videos for Edmunds.com, which is really fun. Do reviews. Recently got to do a very long burnout in a red-eye Hellcat Challenger, which is something I recommend.
Yeah, for everybody.
Keep an eye out towards the end of the year for a book about Don the Snake Prudhomme. And of course, American Car Collector and Sports Car Market.
Absolutely. Listeners, again, you can find all these links on Elana's show notes page on the Sports Car Market website. Just go there and we'll have everything there linked for you. You can also find it on the Cars Yeah website. Elana, thanks for being so generous today with your time, your expertise, and fun stories. This has been fantastic.
Elana, thanks so much for being here on Buy, Sell, Hold.
Thank you guys so much for having me. I had a wonderful time.
It's been great. You take care. Have a fantastic day.
You too. Bye.
Hey, Mark Green here. If you love the Buy, Sell, Hold podcast, you'll want to listen to my Cars Yeah podcast, where over 5 years, I've interviewed over 1,475 inspiring automotive enthusiasts. You'll have free access to my guest shows 5 days a week. These are amazing people who share their world around cars, trucks, and motorcycles. I take a deep dive into their businesses, and they share with you how they've wrapped their passion for vehicles into their lives. Plus, go to the carsyeah.com website and hit the free book button, and I'll email you my free Filler Up book. It's an ebook filled with beautiful fuel filler fun and inspiring quotes from my past guests. Once subscribed, you'll get my weekly blog as well. You can find all the Cars Yeah shows on carsyeah.com or on any mobile device using your podcast app. Just search for Cars Yeah Podcast and subscribe today. That way you'll get both Buy, Sell, Hold with Keith and me and the Cars Yeah Podcast delivered right to your mobile device or your computer. Thanks for listening.
We hope to have shed some light today on the collector car market. You can listen to all the Buy, Sell, Hold podcasts at sportscarmarket.com and carsyeah.com. You'll find hundreds of inspiring automotive enthusiasts on the Cars Yeah website as well. Be sure to log into sportscarmarket.com and subscribe to Keith's SCM weekly newsletter. You'll find digital issues, insider event guides, and price guides, along with our Platinum database, column profiles, classifieds, and many other resources. Join Keith and Mark next week to hear from another automotive industry leader who will help you determine when to buy, sell, or hold.